Many people are in desperate need of an education, a reintroduction to who God is. And that is why throughout this collection of sermons together, we have been trying to reintroduce, to redefine for some of us who God is, that we don't serve an incapable God. We don't serve a small God. We don't serve a God who has challenges following through. No. That's not the God we serve. The God we serve is a big God. He's able, he's competent, he's capable, he can handle whatever it is we face. And so, if you're new with us today, welcome. But if you've been joining us for the last few weeks, you know we've been building this together because you can't just get the whole education you need in a moment. We've been walking step by step and principle by principle and understanding by understanding to build within inside of us this truth that we serve a big God. A big God, as we said in the first installment of this series, that he can bring you out. That wherever you've been and whatever you're going through, God is big enough to bring you out. Wherever you find yourself right now, have faith on the inside of you that God is big and he can bring you out. But that isn't where he stops. He doesn't just bring you out and say, here, I hope you enjoy life. Here, I hope you can figure this out from here. No. But we also learn that he can lead you through. It may take you a while. You may wander on a roundabout way, but he has the power, he has the strength that he can lead you through. And he won't just lead you for the sake of leading you, but also in the third installment, we discover that he can help you win. Yes, he can bring you out. Yes, he can lead you through, but he has the power because he's a big God to help you win. But today, I've come to inform you and inspire you with one more reality on today. One more truth that I pray gets planted on the inside of your soul. And it's this, that he will get you there. He will get you there. The Bible teaches us that God is not a man that he should lie, nor is he the son of man that he should recount his ways. In other words, what he's promised, he will do. What he said will come to pass. What he has for you, like the old folk used to say, it is for you, because he will get you there. And as soon as you stop worrying about when he's going to get you there, or how he's going to get you there, or why it's not happened as fast as somebody else that you may know, or why it's not come in the season of life that you hoped it would come in, and why you haven't arrived. When you begin to have faith that I don't need to worry about how it's going to happen and where it's going to happen and when it's going to happen, I just know that he will get me there. Oh, it changes everything about you. When you believe in your heart of hearts, come on, in the depth of your soul, that you serve a big God, it begins to change everything about you. In fact, what becomes true of you, your testimony, what you say about whatever it is you see, is you start to say, I don't know how, but I know God will. So I trust him completely. I don't know how we're going to get through this season. I don't know how we're going to make it through next month. I don't know how we're going to take care of these responsibilities. I don't know how I can navigate everything on my plate. I don't know how I'm ever going to find joy again. I don't know how I'm ever going to have I don't know how. I just know that he will get me there. It sounds different. Come on, when you've seen that your God is big and he can bring you out, and not only can he bring you out, he can lead you through. And not only can he lead you through, he can help you win. And when you've experienced that, what will come true of your testimony is that you start to see that he will get you there. You start to say stuff like, I don't know how it's going to work out, but it will work out because I believe him and I trust him. And I don't lean on my own understanding, but in all my ways I acknowledge him, and he will work it out. He will get me there. This is the story of the Exodus. If you've been journeying with us over these many weeks, you know that each time we've gathered, we've opened the scriptures to the Old Testament accounts of the Exodus, this introduction to the big God that we serve, the big God that we worship. One of the preeminent moments of him flexing his strength, showing his power, and helping all the promises of God that we understand to be able to put our weight on, because he did it there. It's a story of a big God, though, who did what he said. At the end of the day, that is the story of the Exodus. I know we've talked about all the little fun little details and moments and journeyings along the way, and those are often the things that we get caught up with. But the Exodus is far more than just God bringing his people out of captivity in Egypt. You know that, right? This is about God doing what God said he would do. See, the Exodus account, as we would know it, really starts way before there are people trapped in slavery in a land called Egypt. It starts way before God rose up a leader by the name of Moses. This whole story, this whole reality started very early in the book. The book of Genesis chapter 12, God taps a man on the shoulder by the name of Abram. It tells Abram, I'm asking you to leave the land that you know and go to a land I will show you. And by faith, Abram left what he had always known. At 75 years old, he packed up and moved to the place that God led him. And when God got him there, it was occupied with some other people. And God said, I am making a promise to you, Abram, that I'm going to build a great nation out of you. I know you ain't got no kids, Abram, but I'm going to build a great nation out of you. And not only am I going to build a great nation, I'm going to build a great nation so the world will see the benefits of knowing God, of following God, of serving God. And I'm going to give you this land. I promise to you, Abram, that this land will be your land. Abram in his whole life never saw that promise come to be. He did have a son by the name of Isaac. And it was the son of promise. And Abram trusted God with him and with his life. And Isaac held on to the same promise that God had given Abram. And Isaac had a son by the name of Jacob, who God changed his name to Israel. They would become the namesake of this nation. And Israel had 12 sons. But one of those he loved more than the others, because this son was the son born to him by the wife he loved the most. It was a son called Joseph. But Joseph was despised by his brothers because of his father's affection for him. And so when they found an opportunity, they beat him up, stripped him of the clothing that his father had given him, this special coat, just signifying his love for his son. It took it off of him, and they were ready to kill him, but instead of killing him, they sold him to a group of Ishmaelite slave traders who were on their way to Egypt. And God used Joseph there, and he blessed Joseph. And everything Joseph's hand touched, whether he was in somebody's house, whether he was in the prison, whether he was running the nation of Egypt, everything his hand touched prospered. And God used Egypt as a place to protect his people. Because when famine would come through the land, the promised land, everyone left. Everyone went looking for resource. Everyone went looking for food. And where had God provided resource but in Egypt through his servant Joseph? But the scripture tells us that after Joseph died, generations later, the pharaohs had forgotten about Joseph, forgotten about his leadership, forgotten about the success that he brought, forgotten about his favor with previous pharaohs, and they got intimidated by these Hebrew people growing and multiplying and thriving in a place in Egypt called Goshen. And so they decided to force them and subject them to slavery. And it was after hundreds of years of this slavery that God raised up a man a little too Egyptian to be a good Hebrew and a little too Hebrew to be a good Egyptian, known as Moses. And Moses came to the Pharaoh and said, God has said he wants his people to be free and to worship him. So let them go. And through the course of 10 plagues, God makes it clear that he's a bigger God than Pharaoh is Pharaoh. God makes it clear that he sees his people, that he can handle his people, that he hasn't forgotten his promise. And God leads them mightily out of slavery in Egypt. They plunder the Egyptians along the way because the Egyptians are so fearful of who this God is that they worship. And God leads them through the Red Sea. And he leads them to a place called Mount Sinai, where he passes on his law, his covenant to them. But because of the hardness of their hearts, they then would take 40 years to go on an 11-day journey. But finally, they make it to the bank of the Jordan. With Joshua now as their leader, as Moses' time has ended, they cross the Jordan and make their way into the promised land. But they got work to do because God's promises require our participation. And so God leads them as they fight battles. He leads them even when they don't always do what he said, how he said it. He allows them to lose, but then helps them to get their act together so they can win again. It's battle after battle. It's struggle after struggle. It's fight after fight, until they were finally and fully in the place God had for them to be. Until they finally and fully were occupying the place that God had promised Abram he had for them. I need you to know today that God will get you there. If he can make a promise to a 75-year-old man with no children that I will bring you, so you can't wrap your mind around it, but I'm making a promise to you today. And then hundreds of years later, under the leadership of Joshua, God's people who originated with Abram would come by the millions and occupy this place that God had promised them to be. God will get you there. But you must understand that he is in no hurry to do so. God will get you there. I don't know where the there is for you, but he will get you there. But you need to understand he's not running out of resources or time. He will get you there when you're ready to get there. He will get you there when he's ready to get you there, because he's big enough to take his time. Now, I know we love to celebrate stories as people of faith. Talk about how people, well, they prayed, and then instantly God did whatever it was they needed. They prayed for a healing and God healed. They prayed for a provision and God provided. That God did this and he did it so fast in my life. He just showed up out of nowhere, and then the provision came, and then the opportunity came, and then the blessing came, and that's wonderful. But can I tell you the truth? Sometimes that's not the whole story. Sometimes that's the redacted, annotated version of the story. Sometimes that's just the part that they feel comfortable of telling. Sometimes they left out a very important season or 5 before that moment. Or maybe that's what God did there. Maybe that is what God did in their life, or did in that season, or did in that moment. Not in every moment, but in that moment. Today, I feel so strongly that I came to talk to those of us who feel like God is taking his sweet little time with us. You've been praying and holding on and believing and trusting, and it doesn't seem like you're ever going to get there. Can I encourage you today? He will get you there. I know he can bring you out. And I know he can lead you through. And I know he can help you win. But God is a man of his word. And he will get you to wherever the there is that he has promised to get you. I want to encourage you today with just one simple verse as a grounding piece for our time together. If you've been journeying with us in the series, or you go back and watch, we've been reading some Bible. We've been reading verses on verses and chapters and all this kind of stuff. It's been a lot. Today, just one verse. But it's a verse that I pray the impetus of it coming from Joshua would sink deeply in your heart and in your soul today. Because Joshua, yes, he led them into the promised land. And through their participation, they won battles, and they had difficulty in some places like Ai, but ultimately God brought about the victory. And they dealt with all the ites, the Gibeonites, and these folks that were occupied, and God brought them victory, and he brought them success, and he gave them power, and he gave them favor. And then they had to figure out who was going to go where, because they had literally millions of people that God had brought to this promised land, and they had to figure out who was going to occupy what space. And so they sent this tribe here and this tribe there, and navigating all of this. And Joshua comes towards the end of his life, and they're still settling. They haven't settled all the way down. They're settling. They're trying to figure out, but this isn't really working right. And I thought you had said, and they're navigating some stuff. And Joshua recognizes he's coming to the end of his life. And there's a message he wants to plant in their heart and their soul before he passes on. And it was something for that season, but for every season of their life. And I believe this message is the same for you and for me today that we need. To be planted in your mind, to be planted in your soul. This is the way Joshua puts it in the book of Joshua, chapter 23, verse 14. A relatively obscure little statement, but one I wish we would turn the light on so much more. Joshua says, soon I will die. He's telling the people, look, I ain't got that much longer to be your leader. I'm not going to be your front man. When you got a question for God, you ain't going to be able to come and ask me. Soon I will die, going the way of everything on earth. Watch this next part. Deep in your hearts, you know that every promise of the Lord your God has come true. Not a single one has failed. Woo! He says, deep in your heart today, you know that every promise God made has come true. Not a single one, big or small. Not a single one, massive or minute. Not a single one has failed. Now you need to understand that Joshua was talking to some people who've been through a lot. They had heard the stories of their parents being brought out of captivity in Egypt. They had been children and young adults and adults that were navigating their own families as they wandered through the wilderness, spending 40 years to go this 11-day journey. Their own sandals touched the basin of the Jordan as they crossed from east to west across the Jordan to begin to occupy the promised land. They had fought battles. They had lost some battles. They had occupied and surveyed and seen what God was doing. They had been through some stuff. And Joshua is so intentional here. With all they've done and all they've been through and all they've seen, some of his last words were to make sure they reflect on the fact that God had done exactly what he had said. When is the last time in your own life you reflected on the faithfulness of the God you serve? Oh, I know if you call yourself a person of faith, that even if you may not, even if you're sort of on the fence, you probably are the type who will run to God with things. You come to God with your problems and say, God, fix this, figure this out. God, I can't handle this. Or you come to God with evils that you see in the world. God, why is this happening? And why is this person prospering? And why is this person struggling? You talk to God about your losses and say, God, I don't think I deserve to be hurting like this, to be struggling like this. God, I wonder how this is all going to work out. And you bring this stuff to God, and that's great. But when's the last time you stopped and experienced what Joshua said here? Deep in your heart, you know that every promise of the Lord your God has come true. So last Sunday, I didn't feel very great in the morning when I woke up. And that is a surprise to me. See, maybe this isn't your story, maybe this isn't your testimony. That's fine. We can talk about how to get there another day. But I wake up almost every day feeling great. I do. Like, body don't hurt. I feel good. I wake up excited for the work that's in front of me that day, because there's definitely work in front of me, but I'm excited about it. Like, I wake up full of life and energy and possibility, and that's just the normal habit for me. I work real hard, and I sleep even harder. like when that head hits the pillow, it's like, good night. People talk about I laid there for hours. Not my testimony. I be out. So when I woke up this past Sunday morning and I wasn't feeling all that great, it was strange to me. And it was literally like the moment I got up, I took my shower, I'm getting my clothes on, I'm coming to the church. It's early, it's still dark out. And I'm like, I don't feel great. But I know I've got to preach, and I know I've got to deliver this word that God has put in my heart. So I did what I do. I'm not really a big medicine guy. Nothing wrong with medicine, just me. I'm not a big medicine guy. But I love myself some Dayquil. like Dayquil will cover up a multitude of ailments. And so I had tried to think, okay, maybe I just need to drink some more water. Maybe I need another cup of coffee, because another cup of coffee will fix it too. And I was like, this wasn't working. I was like, okay, so I got me some Dayquil, and I took Dayquil, and I let it try to sit in me, and it was like, this is a little better, but not really all the way there. And so I got to right before we were about to meet and start the first service here in person, and I was like, all right, let me take some Excedrin too, because my head is going crazy. And again, I wasn't sick. It was just like, I just felt weird. Some of y'all know, you're like, you're not supposed to drink that much coffee and take that much Excedrin and do that. Again, I feel great just about every day. And so I decided, though, like when it comes to our time of worship and service, it was literally like a prayer in my heart. I was like, God, I love you, and I'm going to worship you today. But I can't bring the energy that I normally do. See, when we gather to worship, I'm gonna worship. I'm gonna clap my hands. I'm gonna lift my voice. I'm gonna raise my hand. Baby, if I could dance, you wouldn't be able to handle me. But your boy is white and knows it. So I will, with all I have, give honor and praise to God. There was a song they used to sing that said, I don't know what you came to do, but I came to praise the Lord. Can I tell you, that is my story every time I get to gather with the people of God. But this past Sunday, I said, I can't shout like that. And I need to conserve my energy so I can do all that I can to preach your word. And so during worship, I wasn't singing as much as I was listening. I wasn't trying to clap as much as I was just simply soaking in the presence of God as we gathered. And there was a line in a song that we sang that I may have just skipped right over or sang real loud or clapped my way through. But because of my posture, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a song we had sung before a couple of times. A song that I remember when Anna and I were even talking about like it was like, oh yeah, this is a great song, we're gonna do this. So we've been working it into what we are singing. But there's a line in this song and it says, even the trauma couldn't stop the plans you have for me. And maybe it was my posture. Maybe it was the fact I've been a little more reflective here the last few weeks than maybe I normally am. Maybe it was the fact that I didn't feel my absolute best, and so I'm sitting in this a little more. But as that line was sung, it was like my mind was just inundated with all of these traumatic experiences that have happened in my life in the last many, many years. Truthfully, what hit my mind and hit my heart were experiences that had that have come about in my life. They all just like bombarded my mind at the same time through leading the church and through the starting and the leading and the trying to do what God has asked us to do here and now. I thought about a lot of moments when I wanted to quit. Because betrayal will make you want to quit. When people that you love, when people that when you were little, they were your hero. And now they are literally betraying you and making it impossible for you to do the thing that God has called you to do. It's like they're doing everything in their power to stop what you were burdened to start. It hit me. Like the moments when we got kicked out of the original building we started the church in. A building that was given to people that I knew on the promise that a church would always be in there. And we were that church. So they got a building for free because we were going to be in that building, but yet they were charging us an ever increasing amount of money that we couldn't afford. And rather than work with us and rather than understand and rather than be like, hey, we see salvations and we see the good work that you're doing and we believe in you and we want to make it work. They said, you have 6 weeks to get out. And it's like that hit me. It hit me like the seasons where we barely made it. I can't tell you how many times we had to call the good people that run the Malco Paradiso and be like, can y'all give us just an extra week to, we'll get it right, but like things are just real tight for us. And they were gracious to us. But even still, when you got to make them calls and be like, yo, the money ain't math and it is so tight. Or moving into this building that we now use, but moving into it was supposed to be this exciting journey. Here we go, crossing the Jordan. But there were battles along the way. Battles with the people who owned it. Battles with the lady who was occupying it. I was cussed out and called everything but a child of God in that season. Wondering if we were making the right move because of how difficult and tumultuous this moment would be. And then coming in and having one incredible service and believing like, all right, God, we have crossed into the promised land. And then immediately the next Tuesday, COVID shuts down the world. And now we finally got a space that we can afford and finally got a place that we can do ministry out of, and we can't even use it because we're trying to do our best to care for people and to serve people and love people. And God, what are we doing? To the call after call after call after call, to lender after lender after lender after lender, when we had made a promise to the people who own the building that we would buy it in 2 years. And the problem is we were striking out over and over and over and over again with lenders who would loan us the money to be able to buy this building. We just simply pay them. To people who leave the church, and not not that it's bad that people leave. I mean, sometimes people come, sometimes people go, sometimes here for a season, sometimes move away. But it hurts differently when people leave mad. And you don't even know why, because they don't talk to you. Or they tell you one thing to your face, but it's clearly a whole different story when they get outside of your face. And the pain of that, of people that you love and people that you care for and people that you open your home and your life and your wallet and everything. And it's like, you gonna get mad and not even tell me why, and then we just gone? Like we ain't spent years to, what? To failure after failure, things that we tried and it didn't work, things that we got really excited about, and things that we believed God was calling us to, and we fell on our face trying. Even the trauma, it's like when that word trauma was said, when that word trauma was sung, all of these experiences and a whole bunch more that I can't just say publicly, like hit my mind and my soul at once. And it was like, ah! Even the trauma. And then I realized, we still here. Even the trauma couldn't stop the plans God has for me. If you've ever been in a traumatic situation, you know that in the middle of it, you know you are so certain this is going to take me out. This is going to be the end for us. This is where we go under. But we still here. And this hit me like a ton of bricks last week. That even the trauma, the things that scarred me, the things that changed me as a leader, the things that shaped me as a person, the things that caused me to be wise as a serpent and tender as a dove, the things that made me build a wall but also open a gate on the other side, the reason all of this that you thought was going to take you out, it didn't. You know, next Sunday, we're going to celebrate 10 years as a church in a city that when I told people God had burdened our heart to be in the city, they said, you know, that's where preachers go to die. When I told people that were supposed to be sending us that we were called not to some affluent suburban area, nothing wrong with that, but we were called to run towards the problem. We were called to invest in places and in people that the church has run from for generations. And they said, don't waste your life. And I said, it's not a waste if it's what I'm burdened to. And here we are, 10 years later, celebrating the goodness and the faithfulness of God. And I have good news, because we've never been stronger. We've never been making a larger impact than we are right now. We've never served more. We've never given more. We've never shared more. We've never affected more people than we literally are on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis right now. And so even though difficulty has come, and difficulty will come, and I have a lot of feelings on any given day, up and down, I've learned the truth of what Joshua said. And deep in my heart, I know what God has said. I know what God has done. I know that He will get me there. What do you know deep in your heart today? I'm not asking if it's been a good week or not. I'm not asking if the last year has worked out like you thought or if you are content in this season of your life. I'm talking about, what do you know deep in your heart of hearts? What do you believe is true regardless of what you see? Because that's what you hold to in every season. The seasons when you win, and the seasons when you fail. The seasons when you're in the middle of trauma, because it's traumatic. Right after your greatest victory, when you walk up the mountain to take care of an enemy, you certainly should be able to be, and they run you back down the hill. It's traumatic. It's traumatic when the people you're supposed to lead are yelling at you, but Moses knew this, Joshua knew this. It's traumatic when this should have been handled by now and it's not handled by now. It's traumatic when somebody asks where it is you're supposed to go and you tell them and you say, you know that's only an 11-day journey and it's taken us decades and we still ain't there. Are you lost? What do you know deep in your heart? Friend, today, as we conclude this Big God series, I want to plant a few things in your heart today that are true of God. They were true in the Exodus. They're true in your life. They're true in my life. These are the things that we must hold on to. These are the things that we must be firmly established in, not in what we see, not in the volatility of a moment, but deep in our heart we know. Write this down. God keeps his word. What do you know deep in your heart? That God keeps his word. He's not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should recount his ways. God keeps his word. Joshua said in chapter 21, verse 45, a very similar truth to what he said in chapter 23. He said, not one of the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled. God keeps his word. The reason that we sometimes have difficulty believing that God is a man of his word is because we are people who are not of our word. We are men not of our word. We are women not of our word. To say it another way, you shady, but God ain't. And sometimes we start doubting the faithfulness of God to his word because of our lack of faithfulness. But the Apostle Paul told Timothy that even when we are unfaithful, he cannot be unfaithful because he will not deny himself. And his word is about him, not about you. Them getting to the promised land had nothing to do with them. It had to do with a word God spoke to a man called Abram way before any of them or their parents or their grandparents or their great-grandparents or their great-grandparents were even born. When he had the faith to go from where he was to where God asked him to go, and he said, I promise you, I'm going to make you into a great nation. And your descendants are going to occupy here. It wasn't about Israel's wants. This was about God's word. Israel wouldn't have known about a better land, about a promised land, if God hadn't told them about it. They didn't even want it initially. That's why literally when God is bringing them out of Egypt, he can't take them on the fast road because God said if they run into any obstacle, they're going to run back and think that somehow where they were is better for them than what I have told them I have for them. So let me take you on this roundabout way. That's why for us today, there's no greater prayer that we can pray than his word. There's no greater prayer that you can pray than his word. You pray the truth of God, the word of God in your life and over your life, because there's no greater hope to hold to than his word. And there's no clearer confidence. There's no stronger security. There's no more powerful peace than what his word has already said. Please understand me today. Whatever God has said, God is big enough to do. Whatever it is he said, he's big enough to do. He promised to keep you in perfect peace. And he can. Because he said, I will keep the one in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on me. He has the power to do that. He said, I'll be with you in the valley of the shadow of death. And if he said he would, he will. If he said, take note of how I care for the birds in the air and the flowers in the field, and if I provide for them, I will provide for you. Guess what? He will, because he's a man of his word. God keeps his word. And God, write this down, fulfills his promises. God keeps his word, but he fulfills his promises. The Apostle Paul, from the confines of prison, wrote this letter to the group of Jesus followers in Philippi. And he said, you can be confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion unto the day of Christ Jesus. You can be confident of this thing, that the promises God has made to you, the promises God has said of you, the promises that God has said are for you, he will bring it to pass. So don't get discouraged with the length of the journey. Sometimes we get so dismayed because it's taking a while. Don't get discouraged with the length of the journey. And don't get distracted with the difficulty of the journey. God did not promise that it would be easy. He promised that he would be with you. God did not promise that you'd be there in the nick of time. He didn't promise that you'd be there faster than you can imagine. He promised that he will get you there, because whatever God starts, God finishes. You know, when I think of all that God is doing, even right now through believing, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about the work that he's doing through us. The work that's happening here, yes, in services, through groups and classes, and the ministry that happens here, but also through outreach, and also through our partnerships in the city, and differences that we're making, and the lifting of the community that we're doing. But can I tell you, truthfully, this ain't it. I don't say that to be disparaging about what is. I say it because it ain't it. See, I have a burden in my heart that God put there before there was a believing church. I have a burden in my heart that God put there before we ever had services, before we ever did outreaches, before there was anybody who said, I'm a part of believing. I will do this thing. And what we see is on the way, but this ain't it yet. But you can't shake my confidence, because I know he will do it. See, deep in my soul, I know that all of his promises in my life have come to pass. Not one of them has failed. And so those things that I'm still praying for, and those things that I'm still walking in, and those callings that he's put on your life or mine that haven't happened yet, deep in my heart, I know that he fulfills his promises. So I will not be shaken, because he keeps his word and he fulfills his promises. But God requires your faith. What he requires is your faith and mine. The book of Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, the writer puts it this way, that without faith it's impossible to please God. For the one who draws near to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who diligently seek him. You can't please God without the faith it takes to keep his word, to walk in his promises, to trust that his ways are better than your ways. So where are you not pleasing God right now because of your lack of faith? Maybe today you would be honest and recognize you don't have faith for salvation, maybe for yourself. Maybe you're sitting in church and going, God can't change my life. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Maybe it's somebody in your family that you know that you love and you know they're far from God, but you don't have the faith for their salvation because they've been living their own life for a little while, or they are caught up in some stuff. What do you not have faith for today? Where are you not pleasing God because of your lack of faith? No faith to keep serving? See, it's one thing to serve when it's easy for you. It's one thing to serve when it fits neatly into your schedule. It's a whole other thing to serve when you start having to plan on a higher level and strategize and think things out to make it happen. No faith to serve, no faith to start leading. Some of you, God has called you. He said, hey, I want you to start leading in this church. I want you to start leading in outreach. I want you to start leading in the ministry. I want you to start leading, but you continue to sit back. Do you have no faith to start leading? No faith to help others? No faith for provision? So some of you are hanging on so tightly to whatever it is God is giving you, the strength he's giving you for today, the money he's giving you this week, and you strangle the life out of it because you don't believe he can provide. You have no faith for provision. See, the evidence of faith is faithfulness, because faithfulness takes faith. We often think it takes faith to do something different. It takes faith to start something new. And sure, there's an element of that, but it takes faith. Faith is required to be faithful. It takes faith to be faithful to your spouse for decades. It takes faith to be faithful to a church season after season after season. Not just the season you came in, but seasons when it didn't really feel like it was working for you, but you stayed faithful to build the house of God. Being faithful to the instructions of God, regardless of the results, takes faith. I'm going to pray even though I may not see what I want to see. I'm going to give even though I don't necessarily always see what it is I wanted to see. I'm going to serve. I'm going to fast. I'm going to pray. I'm going to bless others. I'm going to forgive even though he will get you there. But he will get you there by faith. He won't get you there by perfection. He won't get you there by strength. He won't get you there by talent. He won't get you there by your morality. He won't get you there by your knowledge. He won't get you there by your will and your fights. He will get you there by faith. And friend, as we close this journey that is this big God series, I know the journey in your life, the journey in following this big God doesn't end for you. And so I want to leave you with these words to encourage you today before I pray. But you will fight battles. You will fight battles in this season and in the next. But he will get you there. You will experience setbacks. Times you take steps forward and many times where you go backwards. It was true of Israel. It will be true of you. But he will get you there. You will seasonally wander. And wonder if you'll ever make it. Will you ever arrive? But he will get you there. You will fail miserably. Get ready for it. Or get ready for it again. But he will get you there. You will go slowly at times. Wondering if you've made any progress, any advancement, but he will get you there. You will create delays that slow down your journey, but he will get you there. Friend, today, what I believe is true of you is that you will keep believing. Why? Because he will get you there. He will get you to the place he created you to be. He will get you into the purposes that he has had for you all along. Don't be dismayed. Don't worry. Don't chagrin the progress of other people, because he will get you there. Keep believing he's a big God. Keep believing he's capable. Keep believing he's strong. Keep believing he provides. Keep believing he's using you. Keep believing that you're getting a little closer than you were last year. Keep believing that he will get you there, because he will get you there. Let's pray. Father, I thank you today for your word to us and your faithfulness on us. God, I thank you that in every season you have been faithful. And so, Father, I pray today for every person under the sound of my voice that deep in their hearts, they would know you've been good. You've been faithful. You've never left them, and you never will. And so they would walk with faith the days in front of them, the weeks in front of them, the years in front of them. Walk with faith, because deep in their heart they know they serve a big God. I love you. Pray all this, Jesus, in your name.